Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm a spirit channeler and oracle card reader who channels both light and shadow energies in my readings, which means if you're easily triggered, please find yourself another reader. For those of you who still remain, today's reading will be on the topic of what past life energy pattern or karma is currently affecting me to this day. So you have 4 piles to choose from left to right, pile 1, 2, 3, and 4. Timestamps are in the description box, as well as my Ko-fi account if you feel like donating to the channel. Pause the video if you need some more time to choose your pile, and I will see you in your reading. Hello, pile number 1. Welcome to your reading. So what past life energy pattern is still affecting you to this day? Love. That is what's still affecting you to this day. But more specifically, it's a heartbreak in regards to love. Someone broke your heart. The person that you were married to or the person who you were in love with in your past life broke your heart. Now, for some of you, you may have been married to this person. For others of you, you may have been their mistress. But this person had other commitments. This love of your life, he had other commitments. And just because you're male in this life, by the way, as a side note, doesn't mean that you couldn't have been the female in this past life. So this could actually be you. However, you could have been the male in the past life, and what would have happened is that you were in love with a girl you could not be with because society told you couldn't be with her, and or you were already married when you met her. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you were the male or the female. Again, this is a general reading, and different groups of you are watching this. However, there was an unrequited love situation happening here. Either it's because the person you were in love with very much fancied you but didn't love you enough to commit to you, whether that be commit to you by staying faithful because you guys were already married, or commit to you by actually getting married to you, or the person you were in love with, you could not be with them at all because they had commitments to someone else. So you were an outsider looking in. Okay, so there seems to be a lot of wealth that happened in this past life. You were wealthy, or the love of your life was wealthy, or the both of you were, and status and maybe your caste system, but your place in society, both of you played a very significant role in your inability to be together fully. Now, again, general reading. For some of you, if you were the wife of this man who was unfaithful to you, this person married you because it was basically an arranged marriage, and I feel like you were younger than him and you were really in love with him, but like you saw him as this very beautiful man who was very wealthy and had status, right? And you came from a good family too, and you thought that it was going to be like a Cinderella life when you got married. I feel like you got married pretty young, like maybe 18 or 17. However, he went on a lot of business trips and he had a family elsewhere and he had a lot of mistresses elsewhere. So he didn't love you as much as you loved him. You adored him. You waited up for him to come home to you. And he did come home to you and he did like you, but the feelings were not as deep for you. It was basically for him, it was like a transaction, like especially if this was a society where there's a dowry system, your dowry was very high because you came from a wealthy family. And he too, I feel like he probably had a title and you had the money. Again, so I'm right now I'm zoning in on one small group of you guys here, and I'll move on to the rest of them as I go. However, for this group, you came from a wealthy family, or the girl came from a wealthy family. The man too came from a wealthy family, but he seemed more like he came from an older family with that were titled, or that had some sort of position in authority, like in the government or something like that. And he mainly married you because of your money, though you were pretty enough, you were young enough, you were nice enough to look at, you were easy enough to talk to pretty much. Not that you guys had long conversations. I really see you guys like not really having much to talk about because there was a kind of an age gap or a gap in your personalities here. But you, the younger person, the girl, was really, really in love with this man. So that's one sub scenario. The other sub scenario of you guys watching this, this man was married to someone, again, sort of an arranged marriage, but he fell in love with you. You were like a free woman. You, again, probably came from money, I really feel. Or even if you did, you were free on the stage. For some of you, you were on the stage, you were singing, you were dancing, you were acting, you were living the free life. Unmarried yourself, but you were having an affair with this married man, and you two really, really loved each other, but he had a wife and kids at home. I feel like he paid for you, like he gave you a sort of an allowance. He helped you with your career. He may have had contacts, or he may have been a patron of yours who always came to see you sing. Maybe you were an opera singer or just an actor or something like that. And he pretty much supplemented your lifestyle as well, and you guys really, really loved each other. But like I said, he had a wife and some children at home, probably in another city. I see him traveling to see you in another city. That's the other subgroup of you guys. So definitely you have for in this lifetime you have a hole in your heart, because either if you resonate with the first group, the person you were in love with liked you, but they didn't love you back as much as you loved them, and you never experienced true love in that lifetime. Or you experienced true love in that lifetime, but you were barred from being with this person fully and in a committed relationship because of social status differences and prior engagements and commitments. So in the pattern that is causing you an issue in this lifetime is that you have a sensitivity when it comes to, I want to say people of the opposite sex, but of course, if you're homosexual, then, make it resonate for you. But I mean, like, that's what I mean when I say people of the opposite sex. Like people, if you're female, like the men who you would normally like, there's like a sensitivity attached to it. There's a block. I see a block here. It's like you're a little sensitive, a little on edge. I don't see you getting into very deep committed relationships with people. I feel like you have a hard time allowing people to fully love you and allowing yourself to fully love other people, because you are perpetually afraid that they're going to leave you, or that they're going to not commit to you, or that you feel inherently like that you can never be with the love of your life. So you feel like you'll never meet the love of your life. And if you meet someone you really love, you kind of feel like, well, this must not be the love of my life. Or if he or she is the love of my life, then we can't be together. You feel like something's bound to happen to separate you guys, to break you two apart. So I feel like you start to self-sabotage your relationships to try to end them prematurely so that they don't go on so they don't drag on very long. I really feel like all of your relationships in this lifetime have had a time limit. Now, this probably wasn't conscious, but if you look back on all of your past relationships, they all probably ended within the same time period. So maybe 6 months or a year, or even 3 months or 2 years. There's like a time period that you've never had a relationship move beyond that. So say it's a year, it seems like every time you get to about 9 months or a year and a month, something would happen and, it would expire. So as soon as you start to arrive at the year anniversary, give or take a few months, it seemed like something would always happen. You guys would always break up and you guys would always move on. So it doesn't have to be a year. I'm using that as an example, but it's an expiration date for all of your past relationships. So you have an inability to create space to allow true love to come in again, like I said, because you are afraid that something is going to block the two of you from really being together, whether it's the universe blocking the two of you from you and your twin flame or your soulmate from ever meeting in this lifetime, or you feel like if you do meet them and you're in love, that something's bound to happen, and you're always expecting a tower moment to come about. You're expecting like a huge tower moment for things to fall apart around you. So that is what is causing you issues in this lifetime, that is brought forward from your past life. So become aware of that. Become of your self-saboteur or relationship sabotaging ways. Become aware of your inability to create space and allow someone in your life. Become aware of the time frames, like the time limits of your relationships, how they always seem to fall apart around the same time limit. And become aware of your emotional scarring that has passed over, that makes you catastrophize and pessimistic about ever finding your true love in this lifetime, and ever being able to be with your true love in this lifetime. And also, I just channeled for some of you, you have a tendency to date unavailable men or women. So if they're married or they're engaged or currently in a relationship, you tend to fall for those types of people. Okay, so those are your messages. I hope that helped you. My coffee link is in the description box if you feel like donating. Let me know if that resonated, and I will see you in my next reading. Hello, pal number 2. Welcome to your reading. So what past life pattern is still causing an issue in your life today? It has to do with your career. So, and basically your inability in your past life to follow your dreams. So what occurred for you in a past life that is currently still affecting you right now, is that you had to leave home and you had to travel really far away from your home. So you had to leave behind your family and your friends. Some of you had to, I'm seeing you had to drop out of school early, prematurely. So maybe elementary school, you only got a certain amount of education. Maybe you had to drop out midway through high school. But I'm really picking up for some of you, like maybe your education was only until grade 6 or grade 8 max. And you had to drop out for a lot of you. So you had to move further away from your home to provide for your family. I feel like your family, they were either non-existent, so you were an orphan, and that not an orphan from birth. Of course, this is a general reading, so of course there could be a small percentage of you who were orphaned from birth, but I really feel like for some of you, you were orphaned, but suddenly around the age of 10 or 12, right? So you had to leave home suddenly. You had to pick up and move. And for others of you, you weren't orphaned. However, your family, they weren't very wealthy, and they depended on you to supplement their income. So you definitely moved further away from home. And I keep saying that because I'm trying to get my thoughts together, but also because you were alone. So you couldn't just like go home for the weekend, or just go home like just in the evenings to see your family when you were done working. You were in a new city or a new town all by yourself. You didn't have anyone there. And if you did have someone there, it was like a distant family member, like maybe a distant cousin, or maybe an uncle. For some of you, I'm picking up an uncle who was a little bit better off than your family. And okay, I'm picking up a bunch of different things. It's all essentially the same thing. Again, this is a general reading. For some of you, I'm seeing there was like an uncle who was slightly better off than your family, and one of your parents died. So you weren't fully orphaned, but it was either your mother who died and your father worked too much and you couldn't take care of you, and you had to move away so that someone could take care of you full time, because he couldn't take care of you full time. And of course, while someone else was taking care of you full time, they made you work, because you can't just sit around the house, not do anything. You cost money. I mean, your father probably did pay them a little bit to take care of you, but I feel like he didn't pay enough, and you had to do a little bit of work. And for others of you, it was your father who died, and that means that you had to do even more work when you moved away, because your mother depended on you, your sisters depended on you if you had any sisters, younger brothers, etc. Okay, so anyways, you guys moved away. You went to work. You probably went to boarding school as well, for some of you, but for most of you, I'm seeing you had to like cut school prematurely. So if it was some sort of school, you worked part-time in the school or worked part-time around the school, and then that paid for your schooling. So you did some work maybe in the kitchens or as a janitor and stuff like that, or on the grounds, and that paid for your tuition, and you were able to go to school at that school. So, and then for others of you, I'm also picking up that you were older and you left your hometown as an adult, chasing a dream in a new town or a new city that promised secure financial salaries, like something that was dependable, something you could depend on, because I'm seeing for some of you, maybe I think you were a farmer and the crops weren't yielding, and either it was your father who was a farmer, the crops weren't yielding, or it was you and you had to take care of your family, or you just had to go find work, so you left home and you went to the city trying to find work in the city or something like that. Okay, so it doesn't exactly matter. This is not the basis of my reading, but however, I'm picking up all those slightly different scenarios for all of you. But however, for all of you, you had to leave home to go chase money. That's what happened. So you went to this new town or this new city, and it was pretty much a dead end here. But you did make money. You did make money from it. And I see you sending money back home to either your wife and your child, or your mother and your little siblings. Now this, some of you, it was also both. You had to send money back home to your family at the beginning. Then you stayed in this new town or city, grew up, found someone. Probably you worked with them, or they worked near you, like in the same town or city. You met them, you fell in love, you had passionate adventures, and she wound up pregnant, or if you were the female, you wound up pregnant. And now you had another mouth to feed all of a sudden. So basically what happened is that you had other dreams in this lifetime. Now I'm not going to tell you what they are. This is a general reading. This is not what I'm focusing on in this reading. But you had other plans. You wanted to do something else, but you couldn't do what you wanted to do because circumstances prevented you from the luxury of being able to do that, because you had to leave school early. So you couldn't afford to go back to school to get the schooling that you needed to get your dream career. Say you wanted to be a creative, like an artist, a writer, or you wanted to be on the stage. You couldn't afford to pick up gigs here and there, because, gigs here and there are not going to pay your bills. They're not going to pay your mom's bills. They're not going to pay your wife's bills and feed you. You couldn't do that. And if it was, say, you really, really wanted to take over your father's business and work on the farm, you guys went bankrupt, you had to sell it, and you had to migrate your entire family to this new place, and you had to work in this new place, in new environment, in this new job that you had no skills and experience for, and you lost out on that inheritance and that farm. And that's what you wanted to do to make your father proud, but he passed away and you couldn't upkeep it by yourself. You were too young and the economy was bad. But anyways, whatever you wanted to do, you couldn't do. So you had to settle for a steady income in this environment, in wherever this was. And then it just spiraled out of control, because at first you left rather young, whether you were an actual child for some of you, or you were a teenager, or you were a young adult. But you thought you were young enough. I'm picking up under 20 for all of you. I'm picking up under 20. But you were young enough where if you had gotten your shit together, and I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but this is what you were thinking. I'm just going to go for like 3 months or 3 years or a year or something. You had it set in your mind. I'm just going to go there. I'm going to spend X amount of time there. I'm going to save up X amount of money, and I'm going to send the rest over to my family. I'm going to save up the rest. I'm going to get a really cheap apartment, or maybe they were boarding you, this new place. They had boardings. Okay. It was part of the pay. And I'm going to move back, or I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to take this apprenticeship, and then I'm going to be able to do what I actually want to do. That was your plan. It never worked out that way, because then either you got pregnant or you met someone and you settled down and she got pregnant, and now you had to take care of you and your family, and it never worked out. Okay, so all that to say, in this life, you're meant to follow your passion and follow exactly what you want to do. You follow what makes you nourished, what makes you feel good, what makes you happy, what lights you up inside, exactly what you want to do. You're not meant to follow the masses or what the masses tell you to do, what society tells you to do, what your family tells you to do, and etc., etc. Now, what I feel is happening in this life is that you have either society or your family pressuring you to do something else that you don't want to do. And financial wise, like career wise, they're pressuring you to do things that you don't want to do. They're either making you go to school for something else, or you feel like this whole scenario is repeating itself and you can't afford school, or you really want to be an artist or a creative of some sort, and now you're working a 9-to-5 job and you see no end in sight. This is what's repeating itself for you guys. So this is the pattern that's really coming into play here. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done with you feeling that you're capable of following your passion, actually making a living from your passion. You feel like you can't make a living from your passion. So what I see you doing is like taking your dreams that you had as a child, sort of metaphorically writing it down on paper. You didn't actually do that, but metaphorically, I'm seeing you like writing it down on paper, folding the paper up, and like burying it in deep, like maybe under the floorboards of your house, or burying it in the backyards of your old house or something, or throwing it into a small stream near your apartment in your childhood house, and like moving on, just growing up and becoming an adult who is making a steady paycheck, or who's going to school for something that they think is going to be stable and secure, and something that they don't really like, but that they need to pay the bills. You are afraid to follow your dreams in this lifetime because in the past life, you were not able to follow your dreams because of circumstances. So now it could be a repeat of circumstances, financial circumstances that are preventing this. And if it's not that, it's your own mind preventing you from doing this because you feel like it's not practical and you feel like you can't do it. So you feel like you need to maybe become a teacher because there's no way you can actually make a living from being a poet, or there's no way you can actually make a living from being a race car driver, or etc., etc., etc. So you're saying, okay, I'm just going to be a skiing instructor. There's no way I can actually be a professional skier. It's just taking the easy route, and it's even worse if you're doing something that's not even in the field that you're interested in. If you're a banker and you're really interested in skiing, if you're teaching it, then you're in the environment. But it's going to vary for all of you, but you're just not following your dreams. Okay, so that's the pattern, the karmic pattern that is repeating itself for you in this lifetime from your past life. Okay. So those are your messages. I hope that helps you. My coffee link is in the description box if you feel like donating. Let me know if it resonated, and I will see you in my next video. Hello, pal number 3. Welcome to your reading. So what past life pattern is still persistent and causing you issues in this lifetime? So I'm going to start off by saying that all of you in your past life were females. However, if you weren't a female, you were a gay male in your past life. Very heavy feminine energy in your past life, okay? Doesn't matter what you are now, you were a female or you were a gay male in your last life. So here's the thing. There was an unbalance that had to do with the feminine energy and the masculine energy in you, and also in relation to society, the society that you were in. Now, you wanted to break free from what society expected women to do, and you had something set in your heart of doing something else. For most of you, this was writing or politics. This is what I'm picking up. Really picking up writing, politics, or owning a business yourself. I'm saying that. And you, of course, you couldn't do it because the society where you were in, women were not either, they either were completely barred legally from holding office in politics or from being writers or just having any profession of their own or having a business, or it was just so frowned upon that people wouldn't have taken you seriously and people would have blocked you anyways, whether or not they were legally allowed to. Like, for example, if you look at the Bronte sisters, they were very famous writers. They all wrote under pseudonyms, male pseudonyms, because during the time that they lived in, people either wouldn't have purchased their books or publishers wouldn't have published them if they had known that they were all females. So I really feel like that's what happened to you. You guys were writers, or you wanted to be a politician, or you wanted to own a business yourself. And what happened is that you had to get your husband to own the business technically for you. And you did all the work, but technically the business was under his name. Like, his name was on the products, his name was on the lease of all the rental properties that you needed to, like, the factories. His name was on the paychecks to pay the employees. Like, he owned the business. You didn't own the business, but it was your business. You were making things. Some of you were fashion designers. I'm seeing you were making garments, or you were making hair products or beauty products or something like that. But it's like, even if maybe you were the face of it because you were the model or something, I feel like you couldn't have gotten that deal with the bigger company who picked up your products and agreed to sell them if it wasn't for him. He had to do all the negotiating. He had to sign the papers. He had to take the commission or like the money. He had to pay you. Like, the money went through his bank account. You probably didn't even have a bank account because you couldn't own a bank account. And if this was politics, you ended up marrying a man who was in politics himself. He was in the government, and you affected change that way through him by, like, maybe getting petitions signed by your fellow females, maybe trying to get women's rights for voting, or get some other things changed, like work hours, or like women's right to work, or have their own bank accounts, or like, anything. It didn't have to be specific to women, but I would be really surprised if you didn't focus on that based on the limited circumstances that you were in. But it could have been like anything, and you wanted to affect change, but you couldn't do it directly yourself. So I felt like you ended up marrying a man who was in politics himself, and you passed things through him, and he took them to the House of Commons or wherever, Parliament, Senate, and had them looked at on your behalf, of course, saying that they were his ideas and stuff like that. Very liberal. This guy was a very liberal, and you were very liberal as well. And you lived in a very conservative, patriarchal society. So, a lot of you guys with this poverty card here starting off were actually poor. Now, for the rest of you guys, I'm even though this poverty card is here, I'm not picking up that all of you guys were poor or dirt poor. I feel like you guys just didn't have the position to allow you to do what you wanted to do without help. So in regards to that, in relation to that, you were poor. But that doesn't mean that you had no money at all and that you were dirt poor, or like this kid here working on the roofs. Now, of course, some of you could have been, but I really don't see that for most of you guys. I feel like you came from a decent family, whether middle class or lower middle class or working class. But not, I'm going to go out on a limb. It's not poor, like you were orphaned, you didn't have money. You you always had food in your belly. You always had food in your belly. You may not have been able to have the newest clothes, but maybe your mom made your clothes and they were nice enough. You had an education, whatever education they allowed women to have. You were able to afford it. Your parents were able to pay for you. It might not have been the fanciest school, but you were able to afford your education and stuff like that. Okay. An image that just came to my mind was what are they called? Those sisters from Little Women. So that's an example. I think their father was away at war. They had a rich aunt, and but they themselves were not super rich. Like they lived. They had food. I think they had a nanny or a maid as well. But they were not super rich. They were like middle class. So that's the image that's coming to my mind right now. You were pretty much middle class. And also that's perfect example as soon as I said that, because Jo, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the book or the movie, but Jo, she wanted to be a writer. And during that period, like, females were not really writing. And if they were writing, again, they had to write under pseudonyms. And again, if women wanted to own their own business, it had to be their husband's business officially. It's like that. So you lived in that sort of time period. And you were very like middle class, maybe slightly below middle class, but not dirt poor. So anyways, so what happened is that you got a offer for a job. So it was something small, but it was something that gave you your independence away from your family. So maybe it was a job at a newspaper company. Maybe you were writing columns for them, even if it was like cleaning columns, like we've seen in those movies and television shows where like the woman gets a job working at a newspaper company. She wants to be a serious journalist, but she gets like the housekeeping column, answering housewives questions and stuff like that. So it may have been something like that. You got that type of job, or you got a secretary job working for someone who had a lot of influence somewhere, and you were his personal assistant or his secretary. Or you got just some sort of small job. Maybe some of you had like a wealthy relative far away, and she or he took you on and you were like their maid. Maybe you worked as a maid. For some of you, worked as a maid for a well-off family. And so you were, that's what happened. So you had your own employment, you got out of the house, and you had a pretty good position with these people. And then, because you had this pretty good position with these people, you met your future husband around these people. So whether you were a teacher and you met him through the school somehow, I don't think he would have worked there, but he was probably the patron of the school. Or if you were a maid in a family home, maybe one of their sons or fell in love with you, or because I'm getting mature man here, it might have been the actual man. Maybe his wife passed away and you were helping to take care of the kids for some of you. And his wife passed away, and you were helping to take care of the kids. He fell in love with you. You ended up getting married to him. So anyways, you met some older man. You got married to him, and this was very like, it was not very romantic, this union. It was very strategic, this union. He liked you. He did. You were young, you were pretty, you were hardworking, you were very smart. You liked him well enough. He was kind. He was a gentleman. He had money. He could offer you security, but of course he was older. He already had children for most of them, even if the children were young. And, he wasn't your first choice, but he was good enough, and he was available, and he was there. So you guys got married, and I'm not seeing like a big ceremony. I'm seeing just something very official. Like, here, I'm signing the papers, you're signing the papers, here you go. And now we're officially married. There may not have actually been a ceremony. And for others of you, I'm picking up that this person was actually really they were sick. They were older. They were sick, and they said, "Listen, I have no children, or the children who I do have are just, they're crazy. They're gonna spend all my money and blow my whole estate." here, let's just get married. I want you to be able to take care of me if I'm in the hospital. I want you to have the say, because I think my children are going to just pull the plug right away on me or something like that. So he just maybe just, you guys just signed something really quickly. And for some of you, this guy died very soon after, but the status that you got as being the Dowager Mrs. whatever his name was, or even Lady, Dowager Lady, whatever his title was, that status allowed you to make the changes that you wanted to make in society. To a certain point, of course, you were still a woman, but it gave you the position like a lot higher than you had when you were born with your family. And it gave you the opportunity to speak with people who would take you seriously and actually publish your book if you were a writer, or who would actually look at your designs if you were a fashion designer, or who would actually listen to your points and actually read your petitions if they were in Parliament, and they actually looked it over because you were Lady whoever, or Mrs. whoever, Dowager Mrs. whoever for some of you. Others of you, this guy didn't die right away, and he was instrumental in helping you do all of the aforementioned things. But eventually he did die. Of course, he was like at least 20 years older than you, if not, I'm seeing even more than that. And no, he was more than that. He was probably like 30 years minimum older than you. And basically here, everything that you wanted to do, you were able to do. So everyone pretty much started listening to you after he died, or after you guys got married, because your status rose. Even though you were a female, now you had more position, you had more authority, and you were able to mostly do what you wanted to do from like when you were a child. But this happened a bit later in life, and it happened you had to go through this guy while he was alive, or you had to wait until he was dead for you to be able to do this, because even though he was kind, maybe he didn't agree with all of your ideas, and maybe he was limiting what you were able to do. And then after he died, you had no limits on what you were able to do. Now, all that to say, I didn't mean to go into so much detail about this, but this was coming out really clearly for you guys. The point of this reading was what energy is being passed over from this life into your current life that's still causing you problems. And what's causing you problems here, we have the Divine Feminine card, and your feminine side of yourself, the Yin side of yourself. Again, we have the Yin and Yang Tao symbol here. The Yin is causing you problems. Basically, for some of you guys, you feel like you shouldn't have been born a female. You feel like you should have been born a male. You feel like you're more masculine, and yet you're a female. Others of you might be a gay male, and you feel like you should have been a female, but you are a male. So there's some discrepancy there. And there's also an issue for some of you guys. You may have been born in a family, or like a family who had a culture or a religion or both that was very, very, very patriarchal. And you want for nothing more to break free of it, but you feel like you can't. Very, very patriarchal, condescending, misogynistic culture or religion is what you were most likely born into in this lifetime. And others of you, for all of you, you're feeling like your gender is a little bit of a disadvantage, and you're feeling like basically you feel like there's something wrong with you. You feel like you want to do something, you want to follow your dreams, you want to get through life, you want to be successful in life. You want to be heard with the soul song card. A lot of you guys want to be writers or singers again in this lifetime. However, or public speakers. However, or even politicians. However, you feel like people are not really listening to you, or you feel like you can't speak. I really feel like most of you guys grew up in a household, like I said, again, it could have been where women were just not allowed to speak really a lot, or it wasn't that, it was that they had a culture where children were not allowed to speak up, and you couldn't speak up for like at least 18 years of your life while you were under your parents' roof. because they dismissed all of your ideas, all of your feelings. They dismissed your feelings. Like if you said you didn't like something, like the way they were talking to you or the way they were treating you, they would probably yell at you. They would send you to your room. They would ground you. Some of you, they would beat you, like physically. If there was you were always reprimanded for trying to speak up growing up here in this lifetime, whether it was because you were a female or because you're a gay male and you couldn't tell anyone, and your parents told you, no, you can't wear a dress, or no this, or we hate homosexuals, etc., etc. Or it was because you were a child and they were very, very condescending to children. Children had no rights in your culture growing up, like no rights. You just had to submit to the adults, even if what they were telling you to do or their policies were bullshit. You were fearful. You were not safe. You couldn't say anything. You couldn't go anywhere on your own. They were very strict. And what's happening is that now that your voice chakra, like your throat chakra, again is closed in this lifetime. In the past life, you had to wait until you were tied to a masculine in order for you to be able, for your feminine energy to be able to be seen and heard and to make change and to do exactly what you wanted to do. So here in this lifetime, you're being suppressed again. Most of you guys are single, or if you're in a relationship, you have a very oppressive husband, and you feel you can't speak up again because either people are not listening to you or people are telling you you shouldn't be speaking. So, it's very throat chakra issue. Your main issue in this lifetime is your throat chakra. So maybe you guys should take up maybe singing classes or something, or chanting, anything to open up your throat chakra. If someone tells you something that makes you feel uncomfortable, tell them that they're making you feel uncomfortable. If they keep doing it, tell them no, tell them to stop, tell them to go away, and just cut them off. You don't have to put up with people who are trying to control you and restrict you in this lifetime. This is the problem that is arising. You're feeling controlled, you're feeling restricted, you're feeling unheard, and you're feeling like you can't speak up for yourself. You're feeling that when you say no or you don't like something, no one listens to you. You're feeling like you can't go after your dreams for some reason. You feel like your writing is not good enough, that your voice is not good enough. You feel like you can't have the career you want, you can't have the lifestyle you want. You feel like all the great jobs go to men, or all the great jobs go to straight men, or you just feel restricted in some way in this lifetime in regards to your feminine energy. You not being able to speak up, you just being required to sit there and be seen but not heard in whatever aspect of your life this is. That is what the pattern is that is causing an issue for you in this lifetime. And one thing that I forgot to mention in your reading is that a pattern that's causing you an issue as well, it's not only your inability to speak in regards to your career and following your own career and also your family members, but it's also love. You're going to have, or you have been having, a lot of love problems in this lifetime. You may have felt like you were an outcast growing up, that your parents didn't really love you, and you also felt that real love, true love, has been eluding you for the entirety of your life. So whenever you've had romantic relationships, there was always a problem. Probably the people that you picked were kind of abusive or oppressive or manipulative in some manner. And so love is also an issue because in your past life, you did not experience true love. Because remember, you got married through some sort of contract to someone much older. You liked them, but you never experienced that true, fiery, passionate love in the past life. So that's also another block that's occurring here. Okay, so I hope that made sense. Let me know if that resonated. In the comment section, if you'd like to donate to the channel, my Ko-fi account is in the description, and I will see you in my next reading. Hello, pal number 4. Welcome to your reading. So what past life pattern is tenaciously still affecting you in this lifetime? So I'm going to start off by saying that most of you were males in your past life. However, you could have been a female, but you were very, very masculine, and you would have had to live in a time where you were able to be independent and autonomous. Now, you guys were into some sort of crime or some swindling. You guys were businessmen. I'm going to keep calling you businessmen, but you could have been a businesswoman. You guys were businessmen. You were probably part of a crime mob or a British villain, and or the mafia, whatever you want to call it. And you had, or you could have had some sort of legit business, but you did dealings with these people. So you were essentially complicit to it. So you were essentially an accomplice to it. You were complicit. So you had some business dealings all across the country. In fact, most of you had some sort of business dealings internationally. This may have been a drug ring for some of you. Others of you, I'm seeing like something to do with insurance or investment, or people like bank fraud or something like that, like just taking people's money like through insurance or bad investments, telling them, yeah, invest in this, and then it would plummet and you would take the money because you were the broker. Or like some sort of like bank fraud, like maybe taking money from banks somehow, or getting money from, I don't know, just some of you, I'm seeing you just like walking around like shaking down like bar owners and stuff like that for the money, like for a commission. Like you were taking commissions from people for different things. Others of you were importing and exporting illegal goods, or you were, even if it was legal, like alcohol. It's like you were swindling the government by maybe not declaring your taxes properly and saying that you were importing, say, I don't know, juice, I don't know, for example, but it was actually alcohol disguised as juice or something like that. And as a result, you paid less import taxes. So in that way, you were swindling the government by saying that your products that you were importing was one thing, but it was actually something else that would have required higher taxing, but you didn't do that. So essentially, you got caught at some point. You just got caught. Either if you were the one dealing with these things, you got caught because of tax evasions, or like the people who you took money from. These were everyday hardworking people. Maybe you were saying, maybe you weren't paying them properly. These were your employees. Maybe you own some sort of business and you weren't paying them properly, or you were taking money off of their paycheck for stuff that you told them was their retirement, and in fact you were pocketing the money and they never got their retirement or something like that. Or you were making people sign some documents who were illiterate and they didn't know what they were signing, and then you would give them like pennies, and then you would pocket all the profits from whatever this contract would have produced. May have been human trafficking even, saying, don't worry, we're going to bring back your kid or whatever. And so whatever you did, it was something illegal, and either you were doing it yourself or you were in cahoots with the mafia and you were paying them commissions off of stuff, and you guys were basically working together. So like, for example, like I'm seeing it again, this bar for some of you, like maybe you allowed the mafia to sell illegal alcohol or illegal drugs in your bar, and they were paying you a commission just for you to allow them to sell in your bar, but you were trying to say, hey, I didn't know about it or whatever, but somehow you got caught because the feds were on your case. So when they caught the other people, they were able to, through some sort of paper trail or setting you up somehow, because I'm seeing a setup here, that you received some sort of false message, but it was actually from an undercover cop or from a business buddy who got caught by the cops and who was doing a plea deal, and who they released and said, hey, go back out, do this, do that, wear a wire even, and lure some of the higher up folks, or some folks who we want to get, lure them into a trap, and then we'll handle the rest. So that's what happened. So you got this message, this false message. Either it was forged, or again, like I said, from someone who wanted a plea deal. You traveled, so you left your hideout. Some of you guys, you were hard to get to because you had heavy security around you. And others of you, the cops had nothing on you. They couldn't touch you. They knew who you were, but they couldn't pin anything on you because you were smart to like sort of wash your hands of things, or like clean up your paper trails in a way. You guys were very smart, very, very smart. And they eventually caught you. There's a big setup here that happened after you left your hideout, or you left the security of your home or your hometown, and you traveled somewhere to meet up with this person, and it was a setup. Anyways, so you got booked for it. And so here we have the adjudication card. You got booked. And here we have toil and labor. Now there's actually a prison card in this deck. You didn't get that one. So for some of you guys, you didn't go to prison. What happened is that you had to do community service. In addition to pay hefty fines. You got to not only pay back all the taxes that all the back taxes that you didn't pay for all those years of trying to swindle the government, but you also have to do community service work. And by the time you paid all those taxes back, plus the fines on top of the taxes, right? And also doing all these community service works, and maybe having an ankle monitor, or just having your whereabouts monitored. You basically lost your business. And another plea agreement. Some of you had a plea agreement. You had to disband your business, or you had to step down from your business. So you basically lost pretty much all of your money through the fines, through the back taxes, through having to step down or close your business, and through having your whereabouts monitored so heavily that you couldn't, work and get back the money that you lost. You ended up losing everything. So I see you in the end having to pick up some sort of like elementary type of work. Some of you literally went to work in a factory after that, or you went to become a cab driver, or just something very elementary. After all of that big work that you were doing, you had to switch out your suit here. So you had to switch out your suit for like rags and work in a factory. For most of you, I'm seeing a factory. So and for others of you, of course, you actually went to jail. But for most of you, I'm seeing a plea bargain. You had enough influence and stuff like that there was a plea bargain. But don't get me wrong, it was hefty, like a hefty fine, because you had to pay all the money that you owed them, plus a huge fine. And on top of that, some of you still had to go to jail. And your life was over after that. You got caught, you went to jail, plus all your assets were cleaned out by the government. They were repossessed, all of your assets, and they sold it to reconsolidate your debts and stuff like that to them. So you lost everything. And of course, you would have lost any spouse or family you had at the time as well, whether it was because you went to jail and you couldn't see them, or because they left you after all of this. So the pattern that is causing you an issue in this lifetime is you trying to steer yourself on the right path. Now you're receiving intuitive downloads with this insight card here. Your heart and your higher self are leading you towards a certain way of life. But it's like whenever you're trying to do something proper, like keep a proper job, or go to school and finish your school and actually study and get good grades and actually pay attention to what your teachers are saying and stuff like that. Whenever you try to do these things, it's like you have friends who are like influencing you and saying, hey, let's go out to a bar, let's go party, let's go to the strip club, let's go do this. And if you're a girl, I just saw that sometimes you have some friends who are saying, hey, let's go like make some quick money, you fill in the blanks, you know what I'm saying. Instead of I know you're going to school, but I can get you this job doing this. You can make hundreds of dollars a week, even hundreds of dollars per shift. Come, let's do this. And if you're a guy, you're trying to maybe go to school or get a proper job, and then you have your friend saying, hey, come, I've got some stuff, come do this. And even, if you just do it one time, you'll make this much. Like all you have to do is just drive from here to here, or just pick up this package, drop it off, blah, blah, blah. And you're just going to receive this money in some envelope. And then that, you know what I mean? So it's spiraling kind of out of control. Like I really see you trying to get a handle of it, and you're really wondering, why me? Like, why is this happening to me? Like you're partially grateful for these quick bucks that you're getting. But at the same time, you're like exasperated because you're just like, it seems like the universe is working against you, because every time you're trying to go on the straight path and really take school seriously, or save up enough money to be able to go back to school, or you're trying to do your job well, it seems like every time you're trying to do your job properly, you get fired for some bullshit, or you have to leave school because you can't afford the tuition, or there seems to always be something going wrong in your life. Like every time you're trying to do something proper, it just falls apart. You try to go to school, you can't pay your next year's tuition, or you can't pay the tuition, so you get kicked out. You're trying to study, but then you get kicked out of your apartment, so you can't focus on that. Or you're trying to get a job and then get kicked out of your apartment, so you don't have an address for the job. You don't have a proper suit to wear to the interview, so you can't apply. You can't go to the interview. Or you just went and you did this one gig. We're gonna call it a gig. And then you got picked up by the cops and you were in jail for like 3 months or something small. But it's like that happens, and then you come back out, and then you didn't work for 3 months, so you got evicted during that time. It just like seems like random nonsense, like bullshit is always happening every time you're trying to go on the straight path. You're trying to do something right by your family, by yourself. You're trying to do something right, and it seems like literally God is working against you. It's like, because I feel like a lot of you grew up in some low income neighborhood and family, and you don't want to go down that route. So it's very easy with the friends you grew up with. They all have hookups for quick gigs, right? Whether you're a girl or a male, they have some hookups for some quick gigs. And you're trying to just get out of that lifestyle, get your parents out of that lifestyle, move out of that neighborhood. It seems like no matter what you try, just some shit is always happening. You're getting into fights with your boss, getting fired. It's always you. It seems like. So this is the pattern that's happening in this lifetime. You need to have such resilience in this lifetime. I don't know how you're doing it, because I'm losing it just looking at this energy. But like, see here, it's like focus. Literally, the universe is telling you to focus, and it seems like every time you're aligning with something greater, it like you kind of veer off course a little bit. You just gotta focus. I don't know what else to tell you. The universe is telling you just have to freaking focus. You might be a very good candidate for some past life healing sessions with some healers. Cutting cords, cutting contracts, soul retrievals, and that sort of stuff. You might be a really, really good candidate for one of those things. So I highly recommend you getting that done. So yeah, those are your messages. That's the energy that's repeating itself. Things are not going well. You're trying, but you're sort of backsliding in a way. It seems like things are working against you. I highly recommend seeing a past life healer to get some of these cords cut and some of these contracts cut and stuff like that. But just keep focusing, keep going, keep trekking through it. You're just keep focusing. Pick up meditation. It's imperative for this group, or else you're just gonna lose it. You're gonna lose it. Okay, you just really just need to keep focusing and pick up meditation seriously. Like, when I say that, I mean like 5 times a day you need to be meditating for at least 20 minutes each. Like, it needs to be diligent, like absolutely diligent. Cut out these old friends in your lifetime. If you have them on social media, block them. or just delete your social media account. If they're on your phone, block them. If you live in the neighborhood still and you still have to see them, just be like, hey, sorry, I'm busy, I gotta go. Don't talk to them. If you can get out of the neighborhood, even if you have a cheap apartment in another neighborhood, just like move away from these people and focus, okay? So those are your messages. I hope that helped you. Let me know if that resonated. If you want to donate, again, my coffee account is in the description box. So I will see you in my next reading.